Meet Serena, your virtual companion for emotional support. The ultimate safe space to discuss your thoughts, your fears, and the ups and downs of daily life. Start your free trial today at serena.chat.
My 24F partner 31M says he doesn't need consent. TW. Gross genitals, rape culture, obtuse partners. I'm not used to posting, so this may be a bit long. I, 23F, have been with my partner, 31M, for a little less than a year. We met almost 2 years ago, but have communicated on and off before getting together last November. He is my second boyfriend ever. I would say that apart from the parts of this story I'm worried about, our relationship is pretty good. My partner is affectionate, caring, considerate, puts up with my quirks and faults, and never misses an opportunity to compliment me and tell me how much he loves me. I would consider my requests for my romantic partners pretty relaxed compared to the norm: be kind, be courteous, have good work ethic, good hygiene, and even if you're not particularly driven, at least have goals, standards in life, and love me OFC. My partner meets most of them. I do think he is and tries to be a decent person, but slacks a little on the hygiene, lacks drive, and doesn't like to think about, plan for the future or think too deeply about anything in general. He has had a rough time in life, run-ins with the law, a divorce, mental health issues. So I understand being hesitant about imagining the future if it's never guaranteed. Up until recently, we had been long distance. He lived 45 minutes away, but would pick me up often. We recently moved in together, as I needed to leave a negative home environment, and he graciously opened his door to me. Now, I understand and couples moving in together for the first time face some challenges, but we have butt heads fairly often since I moved in. I came from a household where my parents fought terribly and now miserably live together without speaking, and I want to break the cycle of toxicity I grew up in, by establishing open, clear, and non-adversarial communication in my current relationship. This is where our relationship suffers a lot. I believe my partner has a proud streak and does not like to take accountability or do any introspective or behavior-changing work. Every time I bring up an issue, request, or concern, my partner is quick to invalidate my point by bringing up something I do wrong to always make me a hypocrite and shut down my argument. For example, my partner often leaves dishes and trash on the counter where he makes food to the point where there are gnats, and when I ask him to please pick up after himself, he'll bring up the time I left hair in the shower. I often drop my argument and say things to placate him as I don't like to fight. Our intimate issues and my partner's attitude around sex and consent are what make me doubt this relationship. My partner has the higher libido in the relationship while I don't necessarily enjoy or desire sex, but will take part because it is an important bonding experience and I enjoy pleasing my partner. When we first started being intimate, I opted to have a copper IUD. I prefer not to be on hormonal birth control, inserted to prevent pregnancy as we are not in the position to have children. Before I had the IUD placed, I noticed a fishy smell from down yonder, but research explained that an odor can result from having a new sexual partner. I was a little wary because my partner's hygiene is not as rigorous as my own and he tends to have a fishy smell down below, even after washing, and the smell is strong from his fluids as well. Because of this, I have him wash himself before any sexual activity, but my partner was offended that I'd blamed him for having the odor and played down my symptoms every time I brought it up. However, after the IUD had been placed, the odor got worse and stayed for months before I got it checked out. It was BV and I was placed on a round of antibiotics which got rid of the symptoms, but we continued intimacy and now the odor has returned. The experience of having BV is embarrassing and demoralizing since I take pride in my cleanliness and hygiene, and I asked my partner if we could stop sex for a while after I have another round of antibiotics or have sex with a condom to avoid him disrupting my pH. He blames the IUD, as recurrent BV can result from IUDs, and says I should remove it. He is also adamant about the fact that he hates condoms and says they ruin the sensation, says he feels like I am cutting him off from sex, and won't be in a relationship where he can't have unprotected sex with a monogamous partner. Now this came to a head when a few days ago, I asked him to limit grabbing my ass, which he frequently does, when he hugs me, as I've had experience with a former partner slapping, grabbing my butt when I repeatedly asked him not to. This partner also frequently coerced me into sex and in general, crossed many sexual boundaries. He flipped out on me and said that I touch his butt all the time. I do ask if it's okay and he says yes, and that I am controlling and demanding, saying that I control when and how we have sex and how I am touched, and thinks it's weird. That he has to ask for consent to touch me or have sex with me, and that if we're at a place where he needs to ask for consent, we'd be better off as just friends. This is where I fell out of love with him. How can someone claim to love you and say that your relationship is about more than sex when they threaten to break up with you when they can't have free access to your body? My partner says he is very passionate about me and says he wants to get married and have a family soon, but I don't see him as someone I want to marry anymore. I want to end things, but I don't know what to do as I live with him and can't afford to live on my own. How do I end things and where do I go from here? TLDR. My partner throws off my pH and I keep getting BV, but won't wear a condom, and he thinks consent is stupid and controlling. Edit. I forgot the advice part. Note. I am not in imminent danger and am not being abused or raped that I can identify. I have not had sex that I haven't consented to. I just find it disconcerting that someone I loved and who claims to love me has these views. Girl, tell your nasty boyfriend and his dirty dick that you are moving out, and then do it. I realize your parents' house is toxic, but it can't possibly be worse than being with someone who blames you for infections he is causing and doesn't think you have bodily autonomy. You can save for your own place while there. He thinks it's weird that he has to ask for consent to touch me or have sex with me, and that if we're at a place where he needs to ask for consent, we'd be better off as just friends. Run. He is literally saying he does not like the thought of asking for consent? That this is unattractive to him? Wow, this is awful. He sounds fucking awful. Mate, get out of there. Obviously, the first thing you need to do is find your own place. Just explain that you need your own space, then proceed from there. Sounds like rape. Be wary of guys much older than you. They love to prey on younger women. Younger women are still naive and can easily be manipulated. A woman his age ain't going for that. Dump him and get a man your age. I'm 40M. Struggling with how to get past my wife's 40F behavior on a trip. My wife and I are on vacation in Italy. We've been in the country for about a week and are here for another week. A couple days ago we did a wine tour in Tuscany, which was one of the things my wife was most looking forward to. She overindulged. 5 tastings at the first vineyard we went to, and 6-8 glasses. I didn't keep an exact count, at lunch. She told me a couple times that she was pretty drunk. My wife also gets a bit carsick. She'd had a little trouble on our earlier trip to Pompeii with the bumpy winding roads. I recommended she take Dramamine, but she drank enough that she forgot. She threw up in the tour bus twice on the way back to our hotel. The driver politely told us that we weren't welcome anymore and suggested we call a cab. We waited at a rest stop for about an hour and she said she was fine, so I called a cab to take us back. She threw up in the cab too. It ended up costing me about €300 altogether in hefty tips and cleaning fees. Our hotel is in a restricted traffic zone, so we had to walk a couple hundred meters. By that point she was covered in vomit and I had a good bit on me as well. I was pretty pissed and disgusted with my wife, so I was walking a bit away from her. Frankly, I didn't really want to be seen with her. She could tell I was angry and asked what was wrong when we got back to the hotel room. I wasn't kind. I told her that her behavior was disgraceful, that she embarrassed both of us, and reminded her that she was a 40-year-old mother of 2, not a 19-year-old sorority girl, and she needed to fucking act like it. She started making excuses. She told me she didn't think she had that much to drink, that she thought she had food poisoning and didn't feel good. I showered and went to the pharmacy to get her some anti-nausea drugs, made sure that she wasn't going to choke on her own vomit or anything, and left. I didn't want to be around her anymore. I had dinner and walked around the city some to cool off, and when I got back she was asleep. The next morning when we woke up she laid into me for not supporting her more and for being so mean to her when she had food poisoning. I didn't directly call her a liar, but I didn't apologize either. So now we're a day later and it's seriously affecting our trip. I'm pissed because she got sloppy drunk and humiliated us. She's pissed because I don't buy her food poisoning story. I'm not sure how we move past this. She seems to want to sweep it under the rug and for me to apologize. I think she's the one who needs to apologize. What do we do here? Edit. Y'all love reading way too much into things. My wife isn't an alcoholic, she just got way too excited about Tuscan wine and drank too much of it. I didn't go into a blind rage or verbally abuse her. I was irritated and made a couple shitty comments in anger. I didn't abandon her on the streets to die choking on her own vomit in a gutter. I walked 5 steps ahead of her for a couple blocks. And we're okay now. She apologized profusely this afternoon. She admitted she fucked up and drank way too much. There was no food poisoning involved, though some carsickness probably was. She apologized for costing us a bunch of money and making a scene. She told me she didn't want to admit it yesterday morning because she was embarrassed and still hungover and feeling bad. I apologized for my shitty comments. She thanked me for taking care of everything. We moved on and will enjoy the rest of our vacation. Wife, you went through 5 tastings and 6-8 glasses of wine. That's the equivalent of about 1.5 bottles to 2 bottles of wine. You did not have food poisoning. You were drunk. Own up to your behavior. So, she's embarrassed and trying to not own her own wrongdoing in this situation. Instead of pushing her, make sure you let her know how it made you feel and ask her to be real with herself on what happened. She fucked up. She overindulged. And is probs pretty embarrassed by it herself, hence wanting to blame something else other than overindulgence. So leave it at that. She fucked up. Have you never done dumb shit in your life? It should become funny story in 6 months if you handle it right. Let it go. You got wasted. Own it and let's enjoy the rest of the trip. I don't think it's worthwhile crucifying your wife for one mistake on holiday. Who did she embarrass you in front of? People you will never see again? Oh, and I'm pretty sure it cost both of you €300. Maybe lose a bit of the attitude. I understand it was a hard day, but you are resilient. Dude, for real, your wife got drunk and had a bad night. She didn't cheat on you or disrespect you. She just had a bunch of drinks at an event you say yourself she was super looking forward to. Who cares? Laugh it off and support her instead of being so uptight about it. You're on vacation. Is my 37F boyfriend 44 MA creep? My boyfriend, 44 male, and I, 37 female, have been together for almost a year. He treats me very well, texts me throughout the day, spends most of his free time with me, very affectionate and caring. My dilemma. We went to the beach one day, took my 9-year-old and our neighbor's kid. Day was going well, not very crowded. A family shows up with mom, dad, and teen son. After a short while their daughter shows up as well. She looked to be about 18-19. She's in a bikini of course and is a very lovely young woman. My boyfriend keeps looking over at her the whole time we are there after she arrives. Like turning his whole head, staring a few seconds and then looking back out at the ocean. It was a little annoying of course. The part that bothered me the most is before we left. The kids are gathering their things. I have nothing to gather so I'm just standing there. The girl is sitting with her back faced to us eating a snack with her mom. He puts his book bag on and turns his entire body to face her. Stands there looking down at her for about 4 or 5 long seconds and then turns and leaves. What the fuck was that all about? I've noticed him before taking a double look at another woman, which doesn't bother me much, it's natural I think. But the leering made me uncomfortable, especially considering her age. I asked him about it when we got home and he got very mad at the fact that I would even think he was looking at her like that, yelled at me. Made me feel like I was being a psycho by even thinking he would enjoy looking at a girl that young at the beach with her family. But he was though. Maybe it was innocent and he didn't realize what he was doing. IDK. The whole incident just hasn't sat with me well. Also, the same day on the way out of the beach parking lot there's this woman bent over in her trunk wearing shorts with her butt hanging out. He looks up from his phone, sees it and then looks out his window turning in his seat the whole time we pass, getting as long of a look as he can. Considering what I had just observed on the beach, it made me question if he has a problem or something. This weekend we are at a restaurant and a waitress is bent over getting ice. He leans in to take a few gulps of his drink and he's staring at her ass the whole time. Face with rolling eyes after him, and I discussed the other incidents and he swore he's not looking in a sexual way and that he only thinks of me that way. I explained it makes me uncomfortable when I'm sitting right there. I get he is human and just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean you aren't attracted to anyone else ever, but be discreet about it and try to control yourself when you're with me. Kind of a huge turn off. Crazy thing is, he doesn't even watch porn. He never really has, doesn't follow women on social media or anything like that. Which makes me even more perplexed. Then again, I'm a woman. So how would I know what he's thinking or what's normal for a man? I guess I'm wondering how a man would view this. I check out attractive women when I see them. There is nothing theoretically wrong with it. However, leering and staring for a long time just shows a lack of self-discipline. Not to mention the disrespectfulness of noticeably starting while you are with another woman. There's a difference between a glance and staring. If he lacks that much self-awareness, maybe it's worth a conversation so he can try to improve on it. A passing glance is acceptable, staring is rude and leering is creepy. Your boyfriend is a creep. As a woman, this behavior from men makes me want to crawl into a hole. And men started with this before I was even a teenager. Tell your husband to leave strange women and girls alone. Most people do not want to be ogled. Mid-40s man visibly staring at a teen on a beach? Yeah, that's pretty gross. I'm not saying it's not normal for people to notice the opposite sex and find them attractive, but it's about having the respect to not leer and stare. Both respect to you to not creep on other ladies in front of you, and respect to the strangers he's staring at in such a creepy manner. Also, your first paragraph where you describe what a good guy he is sounds like the bare minimum for a partner, and I wouldn't let that justify his other crappy behavior. My wife, 32 female, got cancer and is leaving me, 32 male. I'm distraught. My wife and I were dating 10 years before we got married last year, June 2022. So we've been together about 11 years now. Married for 15 months now. 2 weeks after our wedding, my wife gets diagnosed with a super rare form of appendix cancer that is as aggressive as you can get. So she ends up in the hospital last July up at Sloan Kettering in New York, fighting for her life, because the cancer has spread so dramatically. Everyone thought she was going to die. I end up spending hundreds of hours researching a surgeon who would take her case on to debulk some of the tumors. I finally found a great surgeon in Pittsburgh who opened her up and spent 13 hours taking out tumors from her midsection. She recovers from that surgery back in January, and she goes into remission for no more than 4 weeks before they started to see the cancer coming back. They then told her she would be on heavy chemotherapy until she died. She's had about 20 rounds total of FOLFOX, FOLFIRI, and honestly probably more than that. The doctors said it only works for a year or two until the cancer takes over. They gave her about a year to live in her most recent oncologist appointment. She comes up to me the other day and says she wants to separate, and spend her remaining days with her hometown friends in New York for a better support system. I work 9 a.m. 6 p.m. every day, and then sometimes I hit the gym after work. She never really made a life outside of the house because she always feels so shitty from chemo. She says she feels lonely and needs this support system. So no big deal, right? I offered to move up there with her, but she says she wants me to move on and actually start a family with someone else. She says she doesn't want me waking up one random day when I'm 37. I'm 32 right now, by the way, and have no family and a dead wife. I told her that she is my life and I want to spend the rest of it with her. She still denies me from coming. I've sat her down for 5 straight days trying to plead with her to let me come to at least take care of her on her bad days, but she says it has to be this way. I'm so distraught. I don't know what else to do to save this marriage. I've tried everything. It seems the more I bring up trying to save the marriage, the more she wants to end it. Recently she's been very distant, and has planned a date for her to get on a plane to NY for good. October 27. She said she would stay until that date to help me with anything I needed to get moved out and on my own. Every time I try to hug her or kiss her on the cheek, she acts uncomfortable. We've been together 11 years and now it's all gone. What is my best course of action if I want to save this marriage? Or do I just let her go? I want to be with her on her final days. Sad face. Have you reached out to her family for help? Hugs. Is it possible she wants to stop treatment and just let go? Has she talked to a therapist? I can't give you the answer. Your wife has made up her mind. I don't think you can change that. With tears in my eyes, after reading all of your posts and support, I think I'm going to respect her wishes. This hurts my whole chest. Just pure heartbreak, but I don't want to stress her out anymore. I will tell her I'll fly up the second she needs me. Any time, any day, any night. Thank you everyone. Sorry you are going through this. You obviously love your wife very much. I've had to think about this situation myself. Last year, at 39, I was diagnosed with cancer. I've been married, with my partner for 20 years. Before I had my full pathology and prognosis, my mind went everywhere. I felt so guilty for potentially becoming a burden and then leaving him. I can see why she is doing what she is doing. It could be to make it easier on you and on herself. I can't help, brother. I just wanted to send you the biggest man hug I can muster over the internet airwaves. Stay strong, at the very least for yourself.